لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين. اللهم لك الحمد كله ولك الشكر كله وإليك يرجع الأمر كله علانيته وسره. لك العتبى حتى ترضى ولا حول ولا قوة لنا إلا بك. اللهم لك الحمد حمدا كثيرا طيبا طاهرا دائما مباركا فيه ملء السماوات وملء الأرض وملء ما بينهما وملء ما شئت يا ربنا من شيء بعد. أهل الثناء والمجد أحق ما قال العبد وكلنا لك عبد. اللهم لا مانع لما أعطيت ولا معطي لما منعت ولا ينفع ذا الجد منك الجد. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبد الله ورسوله صفيه من خلقه وحبيبه، بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح الأمة وكشف الغمة وجاهد في الله حق الجهاد حتى أتاه اليقين. اللهم صل وسلم وزد وبارك على الحبيب المصطفى محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأتباعه ومن اهتدى بهديه وعمل بسنته إلى يوم الدين، وارض عنا معهم بفضلك وكرمك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم آمين. I praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, endless He is in His glory, the creator of heavens and earth, the provider, the cherisher, the sustainer, the bestower of bounties, the source of goodness. I thank Allah for the blessings that He has granted us and our loved ones. I express my gratitude to the Lord in words and action. I say Alhamdulillah for blessings I know, and Alhamdulillah for blessings I know not. I bear witness that there is no deity worthy of worship save Allah. And I bear witness that Muhammad is Allah's final prophet and messenger, the bearer of glad tidings, the role model to be followed, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. May the peace and the blessings of Allah be upon him and his family and descendants, his companions and their followers, and all men and women that walk in their footsteps. And I ask Allah to make each and every one of us among them. Allahumma ameen. My dear brothers and sisters, I greet you with the greeting of Islam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In this beautiful story that many of us grew up with, and we heard it so many times from our shuyukh and our imams at the masajid and the khatiras and the khutbas and the talks and the lectures, it's a beautiful story that happened between Aisha and her husband Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But we always focus on the middle of the story. We forget what happened before and we forget what happened after. Or maybe we don't even know about it. And in that story, Aisha radiallahu anha, it's a story that was narrated in Bukhari. And basically she says that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam wanted to pray at night, one of those nights. So he came to her and he said, Ya Aisha, dharini ata'abbadu li Rabbi. Ya Aisha, give me a chance so that I can do my prayers and I do my worship and do my qiyam to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Almost implying that he is seeking permission from his wife. Or maybe not permission from his wife, making sure she's okay and she understands what he plans to do. Sallallahu ala Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Ya Aisha, dharini ata'abbadu li Rabbi. فقالت له يا رسول الله والله إني لأحب قربك وأحب ما يسرك. Messenger of Allah, I love to be close to you and I love anything that you love and enjoy. In other words, please, go ahead. I will not bother you. فقام النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فتطهر وصلى من الليل ما صلى. Then he went and he made wudu and he started praying عليه الصلاة والسلام after he made wudu for as long as he wanted to pray. ثم بكى رسول الله عليه الصلاة والسلام حتى بل حجرة. He started crying صلى الله عليه وسلم from the emotions of reading the Qur'an until his tears fell on his lap. ثم بكى وبكى حتى بل الأرض تحت قدميه. And we cried more and more until the floor under him became a little bit damp. I mean, sometimes those of us who have a conscious heart, we read the Qur'an at the right time, at the right moment, on the right evening, we may react to the Qur'an with some emotions. Maybe there's going to be like, a little teary-eyed. Or maybe there's going to be a little a tear that will fall off your eyes or something, and then you're just going to wipe it like this. But when was the last time you ever heard of someone that would cry these tears of joy when they read or recite the Qur'an, to the extent that would it make their laps damp, and it would make the floor under them damp, wet as well. ثم بكى وبكى حتى بل الأرض تحت قدميه. ثم دخل عليه بلال يؤذن للصلاة. The Prophet ﷺ used to occupy, his own chambers in Al-Masjid Nabawi, right? That is attached to the masjid itself. And every morning when Bilal comes to the masjid, he would come and check on Rasulullah ﷺ to say, good morning, Assalamu alaikum ya Rasulullah, before he says adhan. So he comes to the Prophet's chambers in order to greet the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He says, Assalamu alayka ya Rasulullah, Assalamu alaikum, Messenger of God. And then he saw him cry, alayhi salatu wassalam. So he said to him, Ya Rasulullah, atabki, وقد غفر الله لك ما تقدم وما تأخر. Messenger of Allah, you cried, and you are single-handedly the one in all of this humanity, the one, upon whom Allah has bestowed forgiveness for anything that you've done before and anything that you will ever do. أتبكي وقد غفر الله لك ما تقدم وما تأخر. And then here's the part that everyone knows about the story, right here. يا بلال أفلا أكون عبدا شكورا. Bilal, should I not be a grateful servant? Should I not be a grateful worshipper? Are you saying that I should take this for granted? Are you saying that I should just say, well, the Lord has already forgiven me, so it's okay, I don't need to sweat it anymore, I don't need to put the effort? Is that what you're saying? Because my understanding is that the more the Lord forgives us, the more grateful we need to be, and the more we need to give, and the more effort we need to put, so that we become deserving of the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Ya Bilal, لقد نزلت علي الليلة آيات ويل لمن قرأهن ولم يتفكر فيهن. Tonight there are verses that were revealed to me. Woe unto those who will read those verses and not ponder upon them. The ayat from Surah Al-Imran that many of you know by heart. إن في خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف الليل والنهار لآيات لأولي الألباب الذين يذكرون الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم ويتفكرون في خلق السماوات والأرض ربنا ما خلقت هذا باطلا سبحانك فقنا عذاب النار. It was these two ayat from Surah Al-Imran that were revealed to the Prophet ﷺ towards the end of the night, when he was still with his wife. This is my interpretation of the story. He was with his family and with his wife doing his thing. And Jibreel alayhi salam came to him with two ayat that shook him to the core. Sometimes something happens to you and interrupts your day. It puts you in a very different mood. So you go to your spouse, or you go to your family and you say, guys, I just need some time by myself. Is that okay? I just need to be by myself in my room. Right? And sometimes, most of the time, it's bad news that compel us to do this, to isolate ourselves from our families and just go do something. But with the Prophet ﷺ, it was these two beautiful ayat that he wanted to ponder upon the entire night and recite the entire night and pay attention to the entire night. So he pulls himself out of his family and out of his wife and goes to a different room in order to pray at night, to taste the two verses of Al-Imran and enjoy them. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. What are those two verses say to us? Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says it is in the changing of night and day. إن في اختلاف الليل والنهار, and the passing of days. Indeed, there are great signs for those who ponder and those who use their minds and use their brains. Because most people are going to examine the ayat, the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and not act, because they're not really paying attention. But it says in the ayah that only those who have albab, who have conscious hearts, who have the nur of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in their hearts, they will be able to pay attention to these ayat, to these signs of God that happens in front of us every day. I'm not talking about miracles. I'm talking about the things that happen every single day. Right? لآيات لأولي الألباب. What are those people doing? يتفكرون في خلق السماوات والأرض. When it's nighttime, they gaze into the stars. And they contemplate upon the vastness of the universe. How intact the system of the universe is, and how beautiful it is, and how monumental it is, and how small we are in comparison with this massive universe, right? يَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. They contemplate upon how Allah created heavens and earth. And they observe and examine everything around them, and they say this, Lord, not in vain have you created all of this. Not in nothingness have you created all of this. Sometimes we struggle trying to find a purpose for this massive universe. My son was telling me, something that his teacher, he's in middle school, his teacher told him at school, right? He was basically asking them about certain types of spiders, and then certain types of plants that just grow by themselves next to the lake. And he was asking them about planets and galaxies and Andromeda and Orion and all the vast galaxies. And he was asking them, you guys tell me, what is the purpose of all of these things? So all the kids, trying to give him arguments. And you know what the teacher said to the kids afterwards? He said, there is no purpose for any of these things. The universe is just a massive waste of space. There is no purpose for spiders and mosquitoes except to just bother us. When the heart has not tasted the nur of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will be dismissive of the ayat. And you will look at the universe and they will say, what is all this? What's the point of this massive universe? But those who have albab, who have hearts filled with the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they will find wisdom. And even when they don't find wisdom, they will say, Lord, not in vain have you created the universe. I may not necessarily know why, but I know that there is a purpose behind it. And it is a purpose that is worthy of your light and your nur and your grace. This is the story. And again, we always focus on the middle of the story. Many people don't know what happened before and what happened after. Everyone knows the part where Bilal comes in and he says, Messenger of Allah, why do you have to pray so much and cry so much? Because Allah has already forgiven you. And then the Prophet ﷺ says, أَفَلَا أَكُونُ عَبْدًا شَكُورًا. Should I not be a grateful servant of the Lord? This is the part that everyone knows. But I wanted to share with you the story in its entirety. Because this is essentially a story about the Qur'an, brothers and sisters. It's a story about our connection with the Qur'an. It's a story about how the Qur'an highlights the signs of the universe around us, packages them, and provides you with this information so that you can ponder upon and contemplate. It's a story about how the Qur'an impacted the heart of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And it's a story about asking ourselves whether or not we allow the Qur'an to impact our hearts as well or not. In the last couple of weeks, we reminded you on this podium and other podiums as well that Ramadan is coming in just a few days. It's right around the corner. And a lot of people they complain that Ramadan does not help them, it does not change them. They come to the masjid, they come to Salatul Taraweeh, and they see others moving with the Qur'an. They see others cry and weep when they listen to the recitation of the Qur'an. But they look at themselves and they realize that the Qur'an is not impacting me. Like, what is wrong with me? Why is my heart so dead? And our response to them is this: there are obstacles that you have already built between you and the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's all self-inflicted injury, brothers and sisters, because of the choices that we make. And we focused on two things the last couple of weeks. We said that people who do not pray regularly should expect not that much in Ramadan. If you're not in the habit of serving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through your daily 5 prayers, if you're not one that prays your 5 on a regular basis, it is unreasonable for you to expect much of Ramadan. What's going to happen? No miracle is going to happen. Even if you benefit a little bit in Ramadan, it will not be a sustainable benefit. It won't stay with you for the rest of the year, right? And last week we talked about the other obstacle that is between us and the benefit of Ramadan, and that is failing to give in our sadaqah. People who are clinching so hard to their wealth, who don't share that wealth with others. Why do you think that you will benefit in the month of Ramadan. And our remedy was this. Right now, before it's too late, be amongst those who will make a conscious decision to pray their 5. Under any circumstances, you do your salah. You're in good mood, you're in bad mood, you're busy, or you have a lot of leisure. It doesn't matter. Your salah becomes the backbone of your day. You organize and arrange your day and your calendar around your salah, right? And we also said, be in the habit of giving. Be a charitable human being. Share your wealth, share your time. Do some volunteer hours at the masjid. Be there for people and for your community, right? Be in the business of sharing so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may share His graces with you. And today, inshallah ta'ala, we have one more Friday before Ramadan. But today, inshallah ta'ala, I talk to you about the Qur'an. The Qur'an is that other object. If we are not connected with the Qur'an, it's very difficult to connect with Allah in Ramadan. If you are one of those who have already abandoned the Qur'an and you've put the Qur'an behind you, it will be so embarrassing if I surveyed the audience right now. If I surveyed you guys, when was the last time you held the book of Allah? Some of you will say last week, some of you will say last month, some of you will say last Ramadan, some of you will not remember the last time they touched the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Consider yourselves forewarned. People who discard the Qur'an and don't build a relationship with the Qur'an should not reasonably expect that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will build a relationship with them. Why? Why? For what reason? What have you done? What have you invested to earn that from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Ramadan will come and go, and it'll just be 30 days of thirst, 30 days of hunger, and that's all you're going to get from the month of Ramadan. Your salah, your sadaqah, including your zakah, and connecting with the Qur'an. Our relationship with the Qur'an is just like any other relationship. You know, I'm going to break it down to you to make it very simple. It's just like any other relationship. Think of a husband and wife, for example. Right? Sometimes we are physically not there. Workaholics who just like to spend 12 hours at work and they're just never at home. You cannot claim to love your spouse without spending time with them. Because essentially, what you're trying to tell us is that work gives you more fulfillment than your spouse. I mean, most reasonable people, they work just so that they can make a little bit of money, so that they can enjoy their time with the people that they love. Right? Those are the decent people. But there are those, work is their priority, work is their passion, work is what they live for, and whatever time left, you know, they reluctantly spend it at home. And when they're at home, they're on the phone, you know, they're on a screen, you know, because their work they're out of work, but work is not out of them, as they say. Our relationship with the Qur'an is the same way. Sometimes we are completely disconnected from the Qur'an, physically disconnected. You don't touch the book of Allah. You don't have the app on your phone. The last time you probably, you know, heard the Qur'an being recited is, you know, last Jummah. And that's it. The only connection that you have with the Qur'an is when you come to the masjid and you listen to the Imam, you know, recite Qur'an during Jummah, and that's it. You never read the Qur'an on your own, right? Up until today, brothers and sisters, they will call the masjid on Friday morning. They will call the masjid on Friday morning and they will ask, when is Jummah? So our office manager would tell them, well, you know, in Natomas it starts at 1:15. In Roseville we have 2 shifts, 12:15 and 1:30. You know what the brother says? Follow-up question. No, I'm not asking you when the khutbah starts. When does salah start? So, well, you know, it depends on the imam, it depends on how long the khutbah is, but usually, you know, maybe half hour or 40 minutes for the khutbah and then salah. They don't even want to come for Jum'ah. Like, seriously. Like, it's almost like they're doing Allah a favor. Like the complete lack of a moral compass with some of these people. The complete lack of dignity. The complete lack of honor. This is not even how you treat your supervisor at work. And this is how you treat Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? No, don't waste my time with the khutbah. Just give me the gist of it. I'm just going to come for the salah. That's the attitude. And when they come for the salah, and I want you to pay attention, some of these brothers, with all due respect to them, but I need to call them out. They are the last to come to the masjid, And they are the first to leave right after Salah, as if your time is somehow more valuable than the rest of us? As if your time is somehow more valuable than every single one of us here? Are you suggesting that it is through your effort that you will earn your rizq? Who holds the keys at the end of the day? Who holds the keys? It is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You think that by running to work 5 minutes earlier that somehow this will... Again, it's someone who's disconnected. These people are disconnected from their spouses. They don't have any friends. They don't have a social life. They're disconnected from the masjid. They're disconnected from Allah. That's how they live. This is a choice. And by consequence, they are disconnected from the Qur'an. And when they're disconnected from the Qur'an, they're disconnected from the very last resort. Because that is the only door between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that might eventually earn you His grace. Right? Sometimes we are there physically with our spouses at home. But we're mentally not there. Our minds are still wandering off somewhere else. We're thinking about work, we're thinking about God knows what. And our relationship with the Qur'an is the same exact way. Sometimes some of us would read the Qur'an, but our minds are everywhere but the Qur'an. Our hearts are focused on anything except the Qur'an, right? And sometimes we are physically there and we are mentally there, but we focus on superficial things. You know, some of these spouses, they would just like buy things for their wives. Right? They would buy things. They will make sure that she's leasing a really nice car, or that they buy her gifts and jewelry, right? But what the spouse really wants is attention, is love, is quality time, is a profound relationship, right? Same exact thing with the Qur'an. We are there, we read the Qur'an, and our minds are on the Qur'an, but we are paying attention to like just tajweed, or how to recite it melodically, and the maqamat, and all of that, but we're not paying attention to the meanings, and the essence, and what the Qur'an is trying to tell us, right? Last but not least, sometimes we are physically there, we are mentally there, and we are connecting at a deeper level, but we are being condescending in our relationships. We do it on our terms, and we pick and choose. Your spouse wants, her definition of quality time is X, and your definition of quality time is Y, so every single time we just do Y. Because that is your understanding what quality time is. She wants you to sit with her on the couch and talk. You want to take her out to the movies. We do it condescendingly based on our terms and what we choose. And the same way some of us approach the Qur'an, right? We approach the Qur'an, our minds are there, our hearts are there, and we are focused on the meaning and the essence and not just the embellishments of the Qur'an, but we pick and choose from the Qur'an. We pick halal and haram boundaries from the Qur'an, but we ignore behavioral modification from the Qur'an. We ignore the moral insights of the Qur'an. We will follow what the Qur'an says and not eat pork or drink alcohol, but we will not follow what the Qur'an says when it talks about honoring our neighbors. Pick and choose. We condescend even to the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the reason I'm sharing this with you today as Ramadan approaches is to make a point, and that point is every single one of us abandons the Qur'an at one point or the other. At one level or the other. Even if you read the Qur'an on a regular basis, you might actually be guilty of abandoning the Qur'an as well. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught us in the Qur'an, وَقَالَ الرَّسُولُ يَا رَبِّ إِنَّ قَوْمِ اتَّخَذُوا هَذَا الْقُرْآنَ مَهْجُورًا. The messenger complained to the Lord and he said, Lord, my people have taken the Qur'an as an object of abandonment. In all the different senses and aspects that I shared with you earlier. It's not just, oh Imam, what are you talking about? I don't abandon the Qur'an. I actually read the Qur'an, alhamdulillah, before I sleep every single night. Well, okay, that may fulfill the physical presence with the Qur'an, but what about the other aspects as well? Is your heart there? Is your mind there? Are you going into the deeper components of the Qur'an? Are you living its teachings? Are you being condescending to the Qur'an, or are you taking it as one package? Are you putting your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your trust in your own judgment? Right? Every single one of us may abandon the Qur'an at one level or the other, and I'm warning you, as Ramadan approaches, if you continue to approach the Qur'an like this, you will likely not benefit from the month of Ramadan. And just so that I'm not just saying things and putting people down without providing a solution, I will give you one tip. It's a very basic, simple tip that we learn from the ahadith about how the Prophet ﷺ maintains that presence of the Qur'an. The way he read the Qur'an was very interactive, by the way. The way we read the Qur'an is just a one-way thing. We sit in the corner, we open the book, and we just read. Or sit in the car and listen to the Qur'an being recited, and that's it. That's all. It's just a one-way street. But the way the Prophet ﷺ used the Qur'an, to read the Qur'an is very different. And I want you to pay attention to the hadith of Hudayfa radiallahu anhu. He used to say that the Prophet ﷺ كان يقرأ القرآن مترسلا. He used to read the Qur'an very slowly. فإذا مر بآية فيها سؤال سأل. When he comes across an ayah in which a question is being asked, he would actually articulate the question and say it out loud. وإذا مر بآية فيها تعوذ. And every time he comes across an ayah in which there is seeking refuge in Allah from something, he would literally say أعوذ بالله from this and that. He would actually articulate it and he would say it loudly. وإذا مر بآية فيها تسبيح سبح. And when he comes across an ayah in which there is a supplication, he would actually close the Qur'an and make the tasbih. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إني كنت من الظالمين. When Yunus alayhi salam said that, he would close the Qur'an and say the ayah. When he reads an ayah from the ayat of punishment, he would close the Qur'an and he would say, Ya Rabbi, Sallim. Lord, I seek preservation from you. I seek protection from you. And then when he reads an ayah about Jannah, he would say, Ya Rabbi, ij'alha li. Ij'alha min nasibi. The Lord, make it mine. Interacting with the Qur'an. So when you read the Qur'an, I advise you, as Ramadan approaches, maybe read 1 or 2 pages a day, max. I know that we are so fanatical about khatam. Everyone wants to do 4 and 5 khatam in Ramadan and just belong to the first category. Physically connected, but mentally and spiritually completely disconnected from the Qur'an. I want you to focus on quantity and quality and not quantity. Focus on quality and not quantity, right? You read 1 or 2 pages a day and keep interacting with the Qur'an. See what Allah is trying to say. Read the translation. Go online and do research. Read from multiple tafsir books. Make your recitation of the Qur'an interactive. Take notes with a pencil on a piece of paper and then come back to the Imam and ask questions about that. Ramadan is coming, and I want you to think of the month of Ramadan as a beautiful, delicious pie, and every single one of us needs to sink their teeth in it, brothers and sisters. This is the legacy of the Prophet ﷺ. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud was once sitting teaching the Qur'an to some of his students. And a Bedouin came and he asked, what are these guys doing? And Abdullah immediately looked him in the eyes and he said, هَؤُلَاءِ يَقْتَسِمُونَ مِيرَاثَ مُحَمَّدٍ. These people are sharing with each other the legacy of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to enable every single one of us to benefit from the Qur'an as the month of Ramadan approaches. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make this a transformative experience for each and every one of us and to accept our good deeds. Brothers and sisters, raise your hands and speak to Allah Azza wa Jal from the heart. ادعوا الله وأنتم موقنون بالإجابة. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعين به ونستهديه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهدي الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا وأصلي وأسلم على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين وقائد الغر الميامين محمد الصادق الوعد الأمين اللهم صل وسلم وبارك عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه والتابعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين وارض عنا معهم بفضلك وكرمك أرحم الراحمين اللهم آمين. My dear brothers and sisters, one quick reminder today to build a relationship with the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala before Ramadan starts. Because people are disconnected from the Qur'an, are disconnected from Ramadan. They will not benefit. Ramadan will just feel like a painful experience for them and they're not going to get anything out of it. And I said that there are many ways by which every single one of us abandons the Qur'an at one point or the other. Sometimes we read the Qur'an, but our hearts and minds are disconnected from the Qur'an. Sometimes our hearts and minds are connected with the Qur'an, but we are not getting into the deeper meanings of it. And sometimes we get to the deeper meanings, but we pick and choose from those meanings. We take the Qur'an with its entirety, and we trust that this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent us for our own salvation and for our own good. And I'm struck by something. In this day and age, in order for people to reinforce a statement that they make or, conversations that they have, they usually use quotes, right? If I'm having a conversation with you right now, I usually cite what the Prophet said, or what Abu Bakr said, or what this person said. People quote leaders and philosophers all the time. They quote Martin Luther King. They quote Abraham Lincoln, right? They quote Einstein. So they're talking about something, but in order to support it, they find a quote from an important person that said something similar, and they would share it with you, and then you'll be like, oh, okay. If Einstein said that, it has to be true, right? We even quote celebrities who have done absolutely no contribution to the world. Like there are people who are just famous because they're famous, and we don't understand why they're famous. We made them famous because we talk about them. That's why I refuse to mention their names, because I don't want to be a part of making useless people famous, and now we're quoting them. Why are you quoting this person? What have they done in the world that is of any meaning? Why are we quoting them, right? And I'm asking you today, if you know some of the Qur'an, you'll be able to quote Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your conversations. Imagine that. Which words weigh more? The words of another human being or the words of Allah? Even if we give in to the culture of quoting other people, at least quote Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Use the words of the Qur'an. There's millions of quotes in the Qur'an, if you pay attention. Millions of quotes in the Qur'an. If you can always find something beautiful to share with others, if you have some understanding of the Qur'an and some connection with the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let me end with this hadith. The Prophet ﷺ basically speaks about Al-Ash'ariyin. Al-Ash'ariyin are the people, from northern Yemen. This is the tribe from which Abu Musa al-Ash'ari comes, the great companion. And he basically says in this hadith, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, that he recognizes the Ash'ariyin from their voices. إِنِّي لَأَعْرِفُ أَصْوَاتَ رِفْقَةَ الْأَشْعَرِيِّينَ حِينَ يَدْخُلُ اللَّيْلِ. I know the voices of the people of the Ash'ariyin when the night time comes. How? So let's say that the Prophet ﷺ is in Medina, and there are different tribes and different groups and different cities, or in Hajj, for example, in Mecca, and you have all these different peoples who come and camp out at night, coming from different parts of the Arabian Peninsula, right? He says, I know the voices of the Ash'ariyin when night time comes. How? He explains, إِنِّي لَأَعْرِفُ أَصْوَاتَ رِفْقَةَ الْأَشْعَرِيِّينَ حين يدخل الليل وإني لأعرف منازلهم من الليل بأصواتهم في القرآن. I know their camps at night because most of them stand up and they start reciting the Quran at night. That is what the tribe is known for. So there's multiple campsites and no one knows who's here and who's there. Which tribe is at this campsite and which tribe is at that campsite. And the Prophet ﷺ says, I used to know the campsite of the Ash'ariyin because I know their voices when they recite the Quran when it's night time. غَيْرَ أَنِّي لَا أَعْرِفُ مَنَازِلَهُمُ الَّتِي نَزَلُوا فِيهَا بِالنَّهَارِ. And I don't even know which of those camps they entered when it was daytime. I wasn't there. But when it's night time and I start listening to the Quran, I know that that's the Ash'ariyin right over there. Our neighbors hear all kinds of stuff from us. They smell our very interesting food. They complain about cars blocking their driveway. They complain about loud music coming from our houses and kids being rowdy in the backyard. When was the last time you heard of neighbors saying, I am so mesmerized because my neighbors at 4:30 in the morning, they wake up and they recite this beautiful thing. I don't understand what it is, but it's beautiful. And I get up at night and it inspires me and I don't understand what it is. Have you ever heard that before? It's either that we're so scared or that we don't do it in the first place. But the Ash'ariyin, this is how they live their nights with the Qur'an, with the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give each and every one of us a chance to reach the month of Ramadan, to be forgiven in the month of Ramadan, to be blessed in the month of Ramadan, to be elevated in status and iman in the month of Ramadan. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among those who will experience God's forgiveness and God's grace in this upcoming month. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among those who will earn His salvation on the Day of Judgment. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless this community, to strengthen the earth under its feet. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bring us closer to each other and to unify our hearts for a common goal. I ask Allah to help us overcome our disagreements and differences for the sake of our deen, our dunya and our akhirah. And Ya Allah, as you gather us here in this shape and form, we ask you to gather all of us in the highest level of Jannah. Allahumma ameen. اللهم لك الحمد كما ينبغي لجلال وجهك وعظيم سلطانك. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. اللهم اهدنا واجعلنا هداة مهديين لا ضالين ولا مضلين. نحب بحبك من أحبك ونعادي بعداوتك من عاداك. اللهم انصر إخواننا المستضعفين في المشارق والمغارب يا رب العالمين. اللهم أبدلهم من بعد خوفهم أمنا يعبدونك لا يشركون بك شيئا. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات المسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات إنك السميع القريب المجيب الدعوات يا رب العالمين. وأقم الصلاة إن الصلاة كانت على المؤمنين كتابا